Hey y'all, it's Raizu here, and today we will be back into Garou versus all of JJK. Can he? Can he beat all of JJK? Me personally, um, I'm not sure. I haven't read much of the manga on One Punch Man, so I'm not sure if he could go through Infinity. And then, like, I know he can adapt to stuff like Maharaga. He can adapt to like probably Cleave, but like if like fire arrow, you know what I'm saying? Like if you throw that out, he's going to adapt to that like quickly. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure how he would get over Infinity, like what he has. And find out.
Garou and his journey to become a monster transcending all that came before him has been the focus of One Punch Man's current storyline for a while now. And while in the anime, the hero hunter still has room to grow and much to prove, today he's going to be hunting
That pose
different
in
prey.
anime
The
it was bad,
sorcerers and
man.
curses of
Manga did it
Jujutsu
better.
Kaisen. In this video, I'll be seeing if Garou has it in him to take on the world of sorcerers and curses, and become an entity of absolute evil, even surpassing the likes of Jujutsu Kaisen's King of Curses.
Hey, we finna see, man.
Discussing Garou as a fighter and enforcer of absolute evil entails talking about him in his various incarnations throughout the story. So over the course of this video, I'll be going over Garou's strength and abilities from his inception all the way to the development of his godly powers to see if, at all, where in the narrative he becomes powerful enough to subjugate the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. The first iteration of Garou that we're privy to is introduced in the Hero Hunter arc, and it's the version of the
Way
character
back.
that is furthest away from being a calamitous threat. How strong this version of Garou is will contribute greatly to setting the
So when
tone
he
for the rest
stepped
of the
up
video,
and
as his
talking about,
martial
hey,
arts
I don't care about
mastery,
all them
physical
heroes.
prowess, and unique abilities only grow from here. In terms of Hero Hunter Garou's strength, his march through A and S class heroes lends to him having feats that at a baseline should float around those town to large town levels. We're able to
With
arrive at
all
this
them
figure
bullets.
mainly because of how competently he performs against Genos while in a severely weakened state, with the aforementioned cyborg pulling off a casual explosion on this level in the beginning of the series and an amplified form of the same attack later in the manga when attempting to destroy a meteor. Even if we assumed that Genos didn't progress in power in the slightest, which is contradicted by the fact that he's received numerous upgrades at this point, Garou being capable of going back and forth with him is quite impressive. Now, throughout the fight, Garou is pretty explicitly scared of Genos' incineration cannon, acknowledging its
Yeah,
potential
that
to
move
kill
is
him if
that
he isn't careful,
incineration.
which may lead you to
OP.
believe that he simply wouldn't scale to its output. However, this doesn't take into account a few key factors. Firstly, Garou says a lot of stuff would kill him if it lands throughout the course of his ascension into monsterhood, and he survived and come out stronger every time. So I'm not
Adaptability,
super
man.
inclined to assume that he's actually estimating
Coming
himself
back stronger
properly when he
every
says that
time.
he would be killed if this attack landed squarely. And secondarily, Garou's in an extremely weakened state at this point, further corroborating the idea of a greater performance being possible than what we see him demonstrate in this bout. This is pretty consistent with his performance against Metalbat, a character who,
That fight
thanks
was
to the
good.
One Punch Man audiobooks, we know should be much more powerful than Genos based on their relative performances against a Carnage Kabuto simulation. Despite losing in 3 minutes due to being too severely injured within the sim, Metalbat lasting that long is an objectively greater showing than early Genos displayed, and the simulation can't really account for Metalbat's fighting spirit, something that Garou activates in their battle numerous times and allows him to continually keep trading blows with Metalbat. Primarily, he's able to do this through the Fist of Flowing Water, a
Flowing water
martial
is
art
like
that can have its
a
upper
good
limits
technique.
reached if the user isn't powerful enough to redirect said attacks. This means that town to large town level is secured as a pretty solid baseline, but with a little bit of elbow grease and a slight peer into the manga, you could make the case for his attack power and durability actually being more accurately around those mountain levels of strength. This is solely based on a throwing calc that comes from Tank Top Master deeper into the manga, and Garou's literal first display of strength being the absolute demolition
Oh yeah,
of
when
this
he weaved
S-class
that
hero
punch
and demonstration of a
and hit him
complete
back,
level
bro,
of
that was clean.
superiority.
That was
The
smooth.
only reason you wouldn't use this logic is if you think that Tank Top Master grew stronger over the course of the manga, but he's practically out of commission from the time Garou bullies him to the time of the throwing feat, so I see no reason to make this assumption.
Tank
One
Top,
argument
man.
disparaging this
That this scene right
interpretation of
here,
Garou's strength comes in the way of acknowledging his martial
right
art,
back at
seeing
him
as
there.
how it's what allows him to take the force of an incoming attack and throw it back at his opponent with double the force. Garou wouldn't have to explicitly be as strong as these characters to perform this feat. Now, this is true in a general sense, but in regards to his domination of Tank Top Master specifically, we have multiple pages showing that Garou,
This is where I really
without
knew Garou was
reflecting his
like that,
attack,
bro. One of
is
my favorite One
just
Punch Man
superior
characters.
to Tank Top, overwhelming him
Nah,
with
he
a
probably
barrage
is
of
my favorite
attacks, and
actually,
even backhanding him at one point pretty directly.
and one of my
Combine this
favorite
with the
anime
fact
characters
that
in
if an
general.
attack is too powerful, Garou simply is unable to change the flow of energy, and it's pretty certain that he should be within the aforementioned mountain levels of strength, not only being able to take and redirect Tank Top Master's blows, but also just being able to damage his character without the redirection amplification. Jujutsu Kaisen comparatively in the strength department still has the
Now we're on
advantage over
JJK.
Garou, at least when specifically referring to higher tiered sorcerers and cursed spirits. Special grade level threats that should be relative to the likes of Ishigori and Arame should all have small to large town level scaling based on wide scale attacks launched by the aforementioned sorcerers. Numerous characters in the story should be comparable in strength like Yuta, Hikari, Maki, Yuji, and the disaster curses from a base level, with Gojo and Sukuna obviously being a tier or several above that. From this perspective, heavy hitter tiered characters would likely be able to trade blows with Garou rather consistently if you go with his lower strength and durability interpretations. While their physical attacks could be redirected and sent back at them, there is a low-balled version of Garou that would be in their weight class. Being a bit more fair to the Hero Hunter, however, puts him in a different league from Jujutsu Kaisen characters altogether, or rather it would if not for a statement from the Jujutsu Kaisen fanbook. In reference to Jogo's maximum technique, the Jujutsu Kaisen fanbook describes it as an attack that could reduce a town to ash, a feat of explosive and concussive power far greater than the town level shown and discussed previously. In fact,
Jogo just got
when
got
calculated,
hold
the
by
power required to
Sukuna
perform
and
such a feat
Gojo.
puts Jogo's maximum meteor on the country levels of output and should be deferential to characters like Sukuna and Gojo with their high level techniques, considering how vastly they outscale the volcano curse. This country level power wouldn't really refer to others outside of this odd trio, but due to this, Garou would be hard pressed
Young
dealing with
Gojo?
attacks from Gojo or Sukuna on the level of a Hollow Purple or Fire Arrow. That being said, Garou has faced off against opponents with extreme physical advantages before, so as long as he's quick enough to deploy his martial arts, he still has a chance at defeating these characters, which means it's probably time to compare them on the basis of speed to see how they fare. Assessing the speed of Garou at this point in the story, and honestly throughout his climb through the ranks in the One Punch Man universe, is pretty simple all throughout, as his best display of speed comes from him deflecting a flurry of bullets from Death Gatling. In order to deflect this storm of thousands of bullets in the way that he did, Garou would have to be capable of reacting and fighting at well over 200 times the speed of sound, or Mach 232 to be a bit more specific. In comparison to Jujutsu Kaisen characters, depending on your interpretation, this take either makes him undebatedly the fastest in the verse, or just below that, only falling short in comparison to Sukuna and Gojo once more. The lower speed scaling is reliant on limiting factors like Naoya's Mach 3 statement, but it's also predicated on a comparison in how each party perceives and handles gunfire. In Garou's case, well, Death Gatling's
when Garou was getting jumped, bro,
this was level of danger, especially in his weakest
top tier
state,
anime fights, man.
Capable of meeting its speed
and he still stood his own protecting the child in the barn.
Comparatively, high-level characters like
he was working him too,
of conventional weaponry
embarrassing him.
As useful and
especially that tech suit,
potentially speaking to the piercing power and speed of bullets being great enough to be relevant
the
in
one who
fights
like
against
Gohan, bro.
even high-tier sorcerers. Somewhat consistent with this notion is
Choso.
the rather regular presentation.
You go watch that movie when it comes out, December 5th. I'm there.
Sound speed being enough to really push characters with great physical abilities like Yuji and Shibuya, or sorcerers that should be a solidly high tier like Arame. All of this wouldn't mean that the max you can assert sub-Gojo and Sukuna level threats is Mach 3, but it does definitely put them in a tier much lower than Garou for the most part. Anywhere from Mach 3 at the absolute lowest to a few dozen times the speed of sound is the highest that you can consistently and reasonably get most of Jujutsu Kaisen's cast, with Sukuna and Gojo being an obvious exception to this rule. While they certainly can be argued to only be a bit above the rest of the verse in terms of calculable speed feats, Hikari's ability to perceive and register Kashima's lightning,
we just saw this fight,
his and everyone on his levels complete inferiority to Sukuna and Gojo in every stat, suggests that Sukuna and Gojo should be approaching or outright reaching that lightning timer tier. Not only is it said by Yuta that a full power Sukuna could instantly kill him and Itadori if at full power, but we see Sukuna and Gojo individually blitz characters that should be relative to Hikari and Akotsu. Gojo
Yeah,
blitzing
they're out.
Urame and Sukuna
Sukuna
Ishigori beyond their ability to
and
notably
Gojo just
react
out
should put
of
them in
everybody
a
else's
tier
league.
beyond, placing them around that Mach 300 range. Light speed scaling for these two technically exists as a potential
Kashima
argument
fight.
as well, but it's significantly more flimsy than the other interpretations discussed thus far, and also not entirely necessary to defeat Garou up to this point, so I'll save discussing that for a later section of the video. As I'm sure you could tell, Garou once again finds himself in the position of almost being the greatest in a category, surpassing the likes of all other special grades except the strongest in overall speed. If you don't have blue eyes or 4 arms, you aren't competing with Garou in the realm of combat speed, plain and simple. What this means so far is that in a contest of pure physical might, the totality of Garou's stats should place him as like the 3rd strongest character in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. A great start to his march throughout the world,
even a crazy
especially
take.
compared to how often he gets dogged in the One Punch Man universe at this point. But unfortunately for Garou, he isn't just fighting opponents on the grounds of physicality. So Gojo and Sukuna aren't the only threats
My
to
boy
his
Bang
life
put
here.
BT
He's
on him
trying to
though.
assert himself as the top dog in a world full of
Bang is
characters
still
with some of the most unique
him
and
in his
broken
place.
hacks, even relative to heroes and monsters in his own narrative, which means in order to determine just how well he'd do in this form, we must compare each party's arsenal and the skill with which they wield it. In regards to unique abilities, this is the first and only stat up to this point where I think Garou is unequivocally outclassed, even by low to mid tiers in the verse. Fist of Flowing Water is Garou's best friend at this point in the journey, allowing him to deflect, disperse, and redirect attacks thrown at him with double the force, and
Good
generally
defense,
is the
bruh.
biggest contributor to his fighting
And
skill and
counterattacking.
martial mastery at this point in the manga. This doesn't just apply to physical attacks either. With this technique, Garou should be more than capable of reflecting energy-based attacks away from him or even back at the user in a fashion that would be similar to Uro's sky manipulation in essence. Aside from this though, Garou doesn't have very much. He can continuously adapt to opponents as he fights, learning how to counter users of that fighting style more broadly,
That skill is
and
interesting.
doing so at an
His
astounding rate.
adaptability.
If you were to carefully place Garou in battles against sorcerers in a slow, methodical escalation of power, there's a very good argument for him getting acclimated to the way many sorcerers and curses fight and getting much stronger than he would be under normal circumstances. He's strong enough and fast enough to deal with practically every low to mid tier in the story, only really getting pressed once he starts facing off against higher level threats, once again, only when talking about in a physical confrontation. Where things get really tricky though is in the hacks of JJK characters, as I mentioned. I mean, you could just pull a random ability out of the hat and chances are they have it. Soul, mind, and body manipulation in various ways, invisible slashes, the inversion of damage, the summoning of Shadow Shikigami, low-level Toon Force, and the manipulation of space and time on an atomic level are just a few to make note of, even without accounting for domain expansions. In Garou's current state, he's definitely strong enough to clash and do battle against heavy hitter level threats if he were to face them one-on-one and grow acclimated to their fighting styles. But in a discussion about soloing a verse, he just gets completely outclassed, and characters like Mahito, Takaba, or Gojo, who have abilities that pretty explicitly counter him, are even impossible for him to take on in a one-on-one fair fight.
Mahito touches him, he
resilience and
could.
fighting skill lets him go far, definitely classifying him as a special grade level threat by Jujutsu Kaisen standards. But he's a far cry from the absolute level of evil that he wants to obtain. He doesn't yet instill enough fear. So let's see if Garou, throughout the process of his monsterization, becomes strong enough
his
to take on the world
transformations
of
now.
Jujutsu Kaisen and emerge victorious. Garou's monsterization throughout the manga is a very drawn-out process as he continues to adapt with every fight that he embarks on. For context, by the beginning of his physical transformation, he's considered a bug that couldn't even begin to match the power of Monster King Orochi, and by the end of it, he's capable of splitting a monster in two that should be significantly more powerful than that very Orochi. Keeping that in mind, we'll mainly be discussing his higher end feats to see if by the end of his awakening he achieved the
Garou, I know he
calorie
had
skills
that
necessary to
transformation.
defeat this world.
That's
Thankfully, we already
OP.
went over the general stats of the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, so we can just see how strong Garou got without having to retread old ground. On the topic of physical strength, Garou throughout his transformation grew leaps and bounds from his previous incarnation, being comparable to and strong enough to...
Hold up. What am I looking at right now? Who's this right here? We got four layers of teeth right now.
split Sage
Yeah, at one point
Centipede,
maybe having
and by
some weird
implication,
looking, maybe like oh yeah, that was we just saw the episode. That was Orochi, but one, two, like five or six different layers of teeth, bro. Mouth, jaws.
Monster King Orochi. Sage Centipede's power should be greater, or at the bare minimum, relative to that of Orochi's, due to him and evil ocean water being sent by God to deal with the fist that turned against God and defeated the king of monsters. This is important not only because it demonstrates immense growth from what Garou was capable of before, but this should also place him above Orochi's Gaia Cannon, an attack that draws on the literal core of the Earth's power to
Oh,
fire off a massive blast of energy, calqued on the lower end
oh,
of
he
World's
like
equal
that. I didn't
potential
know he
and
was like
strength,
that.
with the potential to be a moon-level feat when being a
Insane
bit more
power.
generous, and in all honesty, highballing the showing. Garou then proceeds to chop a stronger character than this in half after perfecting his fist,
Centipede.
and over the course of his battle with Saitama later in the manga, he grows more powerful, more
Who's this
monstrous,
bug
and more
dragon looking
ferocious.
character?
Even if you tossed out the Sage Centipede greater than Orochi comparison, as that is slightly contentious within the One Punch Man community, Garou's Great Fajin is so destructive that we see it deform the crust of the planet opposite to the side he attacked. Another feat that would put him on those
Oh, so he just
multi-continental levels
shooting
of strength.
like through the
Jujutsu
earth.
Kaisen characters couldn't compare to this kind of power,
Yeah.
even if you combined all of their conventional attack potency.
They ain't
into
shooting
one
through the Earth's
massive
core
blast and shot it at him.
onto
Now,
the other
characters
side.
with special techniques to get around the use of
Black
conventional
hole.
attack power, like Yorozu with perfect spear, Higuruma with his executioner sword, and Sukuna's world cutting slash, would still be able to harm or even kill Garou, but none of these attacks would ever land on him. See, his
Oh,
strength
he
isn't
gonna
the
weave
only
it.
thing that gets a major boost at this point in the manga, as even at his lowest levels of speed, he should be faster than that of light. We know this because Awakened Cockroach is stated to be able to deal with attacks that approach at the speed of light because of his hyper awareness and agility. He then proceeds to get blitzed by one of Orochi's extending horns, the same horns that Garou was able to repeatedly avoid and use the Fist of Flowing Water to deflect dozens of them in rapid succession. This means that even
Man, his
if
weave game
you're
is on
someone that
point though.
subscribes to Lightspeed Jujutsu Kaisen on the basis of Sukuna's very, very ambiguous, inconsistent, and debatable reactions to Kashima's EM waves, then that would place them at Garou's floor for speed. In the greatest scenario, Gojo and Sukuna may be able to react to a horn or two in Garou's position, and that's if you do your best to make them as fast as possible. Garou dealt with dozens. This doesn't even
And
account
blocked
for his
all
other
of
speed
them
feats as he
while
grows
weaving.
stronger,
Yeah,
like, I don't know,
this
making
form
a
is OP.
constellation with the sheer speed that he was fighting Platinum S at, something that when
Huh?
calculated gives you a figure of over
He
4 times the
he
speed of light.
so he made that. Yeah,
Physically, whereas human
JJK ain't
Garou
doing that.
almost reached the pinnacle of the verse. Monster Garou reached the top of Everest and decided that he would climb the very air itself to go even higher, because there is no one in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe just scrapping with him. In all honesty,
Okay,
the
now
gap in strength is so large that it also
his
kinda
mode,
just removes
that
the
transformation
conversation
is
surrounding
is
hacks for
it
most
wipes
choice
JJK. I'm not gonna
verses
lie.
in the verse. Domain expansions that
Once he
utilize physical
transforms into
attacks are
that,
all
JJK
but
is getting
useless due to how
rocked.
strong Garou is.
BTA.
Maharaga's adaptation is a literal joke in the face of one attack from him, and he might be comparably able to adapt. And even characters who could potentially kill Garou with their curse techniques,
Mahito.
like Yorozu or Mahito, just pale in comparison so greatly physically that they wouldn't even get a chance to show off their techniques. And due to Garou's rate of rapid evolution, I'm even inclined to believe that he'd be able to eventually develop a fighting style capable of acknowledging the soul to take Mahito out. And if that doesn't work, he'd just fling him into space at relativistic speeds to handle that curse.
Hey.
And Sukuna, the king of curses himself and the
Wouldn't be
strongest
surprised.
character in the entire story, falls victim to the sheer overwhelming might that Garou wields and the godlike skill that he wields this strength with.
Hey,
The
props to my
only
boy
characters that
Garou
don't get
though.
instantly killed in a
I ain't know. I
Garou
ain't know it was
is
that
Gojo
strong. His
and
form.
maybe Takaba. Now, could I sit here and argue for Monster Garou using some combination of regeneration, martial arts, adaptation, and physical prowess to get around Infinity or survive Gojo's domain and beat him up? Sure. That'd be pretty easy. But instead, I want to go down a bit more of a fun route. Let's talk about the final stage of Garou's evolution, Cosmic Fear Mode
Cosmic Garou.
Not to ask the question of whether or not this would be enough. Trust me, it is.
The last one
So
was
to
enough.
list the variety of ways that Garou, when blessed by God, just violates the limitless curse technique and jujutsu more holistically. What Cosmic Fear Mode Garou does to Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo in particular, considering he's the last line of defense, is kinda gross. With the power of God, Garou was able to take his copying of techniques to a whole new level. Not only being able to copy
I mean,
martial
he's infinite
skill,
now,
but with his
infinite power.
knowledge on the flow of all energy in the universe, he should be able to utilize and replicate any ability in the Jujutsu Kaisen verse he's aware of, including the manipulation of space-time that affords Gojo the strength and defenses that he has.
So
One
yeah,
look at
Gojo is
infinity,
cooked.
or blue, or red, or purple, and that technique is Garou's. And what's crazy is that despite the techniques he's developing being stolen, based on his own words, he masters them at blazing speeds and goes on to surpass the quality of the original. This means cursed energy efficiency, cursed technique quality, domain refinement.
Dang, all of this?
On top of all of the natural power that Garou has accrued will be amplified.
If Garou goes Cosmic, he's just ODing it, bro. There's no reason to go Cosmic on JJK.
Fighting all of these sorcerers in this state would only serve in his greater purpose of becoming a true absolute evil, directly ignoring the Limitless through his newfound powers to just sock Gojo in the face, sending Gojo to a different planet using his dimensional gaze.
So
Just
he can
throwing
teleport
a
too?
gamma ray burst at Satoru would be enough to finish the battle in an instant.
He can
What's
just
really
teleport?
crazy, though,
Okay.
is that Garou wouldn't have to do anything to defeat Gojo. He naturally emits fatal cosmic radiation in this state.
So he has his own
radiation exists on the electromagnetic
aura,
spectrum, a scale far
spiritual
too granular
pressure.
for Gojo to filter out with his 6 eyes. Merely being in Garou's presence would be enough to kill Gojo and the rest of the Jujutsu Kaisen universe for that matter. Little side tangent. But I'm just thinking about how much more skillfully Garou would be able to wield cursed energy than any other character in JJK due to his stats and combat mastery, and it's wild.
He's
gonna just start
a master of martial arts,
and curses, stealing their moves,
blocking
mastering them
everything,
beyond the
adapting.
original, and stack up his arsenal to make the all-life eradicating fist a martial art with literally no weakness. Bro about to start chaining together flying world-cutting slashes with perfect spheres with skyscraper Maharagas.
Yeah, I'm
until
not
the
gonna lie, if
juncture
he
makes
start
a
like
planet explode. Yeah, Gojo and
doing
Taco
that,
are
bro,
absolutely
GG.
fried no matter what way you slice it. Now, hearing all this may make you wonder, damn, this Garou guy is strong in this form. Was it really necessary just to beat Gojo in a funny guy?
This form is not necessary.
In all honesty, probably not. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I just wanted an opportunity to talk about all the crazy stuff that Cosmic Garou got in his bag. If we're being honest, Monster Garou either just avoids Gojo's domain by literally dodging the barrier, or he tanks it, or regens, or adapts, and then bullies him without his curse technique while he's on burnout. Cosmic Garou is far from necessary to defeat
this OD.
Kaisen, but damn, does he do it in a spectacular way.
You can just get rid of the
To
whole
answer
entire
question
planet if you
posed in
wanted
this
to.
video, yes, given enough evolution and monsterization, Garou could hunt the entirety of
Okay,
the
so now we know. I was wondering
he
about
isn't
like
really equipped to deal with
his
the
form,
variety of
but his
tactical
first form
power
is
Garou
enough.
vehicle in his base state shown much
He does not need
but
Cosmic
honestly,
Garou.
by the time he defeats Darkshine, Garou has become powerful enough to deal with 99.9% of the verse, probably making it an even 100% after his fight with Sage Centipede. Cosmic Fear Mode is overkill, but if you are in the camp that thinks Gojo's domain and technique is just too much for him as a monster, it's completely inarguable that in his godly state, he handles the world of sorcerers and
Yeah.
ease. If you enjoyed the video,
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. Garou is wiping JJK once he transforms, bruh. I can't lie. That Cosmic Garou form too, for sure. He got it in the bag, bruh. Easily. Like, he gets that form. He speed blitz. He one shots the planet if he really wanted to. One shot the whole planet. You know what I'm saying? Hey, like to see my boy Garou. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace.